This time, we will discuss about the literature in colonial period and the Puritan literature. Now, American colonial and Puritan literature reflects on the early settlers' deep faith, moral discipline, and the struggles in the New World. Most writings are religious in nature, such as sermons, journals, poems, and narratives that aim to glorify God, record divine providence, and guide moral living. These works laid the foundations for American thought and identity, emphasizing faith, community, and the perseverance in the face of hardships. We have here the prominent literary pieces and their authors. First is we have Of Plymouth Plantation. It is written by William Bradford. It is a historical journal or a narrative. It focuses on the journey of pilgrims, hardships, and God's providence in founding Plymouth Colony. Uh, it deals with the themes of divine guidance, survival through faith, and Puritan idea of chosen people. Plymouth Plantation by William Bradford is a historical narrative that recounts the journey of pilgrims from England to the New World and their early years as a Plymouth colony. Written in simple and direct style, the text highlights the pilgrims' unwavering faith, portraying their survival as a result of God's providence. Bradford's describe the hardships they faced, such as harsh weather, disease, starvation, and challenges of establishing a new settlement, while emphasizing their perseverance and sense of community. He also details their interactions with Native Americans, especially the crucial assistance of Squanto and the peace treaty with Massasoit. The work is significant because it provides one of the earliest and most detailed accounts of early American life, revealing the values, struggles, and the religious belief that shapes the colony and influenced the American culture. Next is we have A Model of Christian Charity, written by John Winthrop. It is a sermon delivered aboard the Arbelia during the 1630. It focused on unity, charity, and the moral responsibility of the Puritan community. One of the famous lines is, "We shall be as a city upon a hill." It explores the themes of communal responsibility and covenant with God, and also the moral example to the world. A Model of Christian Charity by John Winthrop is a sermon delivered in 1630 aboard the Arbelia as the Puritans prepared to establish the Massachusetts Bay Colony. In the text, Winthrop explained the success of their community depends on charity, unity, and obedience to God. He emphasizes that all people are placed in different social positions by God's will, and these differences exist so that individuals can demonstrate love, mercy, and generosity towards one another. Winthrop urges the colonists to work together selflessly, sharing burdens and supporting the common good. He famously declares that their new colony must be a city upon a hill, a model of Christian society watched by the world. The sermon highlights the Puritan version of moral, cooperative, and God-centered community, laying ideological foundations for early American identity. Next is we have The Tenth Muse lately sprung up in America. It is written by Anne Bradstreet. It is a poetry collection in 1650 which focuses on personal and spiritual reflection through domestic life. It explores the themes of faith and humility amidst life trials, love, motherhood, and devotion to God. Example poem is Upon Burning of Our House, which depicts the acceptance of God's will. The Tenth Muse lately sprung up in America is a collection of poems by Anne Bradstreet, published in 1650 as the first book of poetry written by an American colonist and the first work by a woman in an English-speaking world to be published. The works reveals Bradstreet's intelligence, deep faith, and emotional sensitivity as she writes about themes such as religion, family, love, nature, and the challenges of colonial life. Her poems reflect both her Puritan beliefs and personal struggles, often expressing humility while also demonstrating remarkable literary skills. Through this work, Bradstreet showcases the inner life of a woman in early America, blending personal reflection with classical and religious influences. The collection holds an important place in American literature for giving voice to a woman writer in a time when female authorship was rare and often discouraged. Next is we have The Sovereignty and Goodness of God, written by Mary Rowlandson. It is a captivity genre which focuses on Rowlandson's capture by Native Americans and their fate during the ordeal. It explores the themes of faith and divine deliverance and also God's providence amid suffering. Sovereignty and Goodness of God is a captivity narrative written by Mary Rowlandson, recounting her experiences during King Philip's War after she was taken captive by Native Americans in 1676. The narrative describes the hardships she endured, such as hunger, exhaustion, and fear, and also the constant uncertainty of survival as she moved from place to place. Throughout her account, Rowlandson interprets her suffering through a deeply religious lens, believing that God's judgment, mercy, and sovereignty guided every moment of her life during captivity. Her faith becomes the primary source of strength that helps her endure adversity until she is finally ransomed and reunited with her families. The work is significant as one of the earliest and most influential American captivity narratives, revealing Puritan views of suffering, providence, and cultural conflict in early colonial America. Preparatory Meditations, written by Edward Taylor. It is a devotional poetry. It focuses on meditations written before administering communions. It explores the themes of the spiritual struggles and personal unworthiness, also God's grace and redemption. Preparatory Meditations is a collection of religious poems written by Edward Taylor, a Puritan minister, as a private spiritual exercise to prepare himself before delivering God's Supper. Written between the late 1600s and early 1700s, the meditation explored Taylor's deep sense of humility, devotion, and awe for God. Through rich metaphors, emotional intensity, and intricate imagery, Taylor reflects on human sinfulness, divine grace, and the extraordinary love for Christ. Although never intended to be published, the poems revealed his struggles to reconcile human unworthiness with God's overwhelming mercy. This work is important in early American literature for its sophisticated poetic style and the intimate portrayals of Puritan spirituality, making one of the most accomplished poets or poetry of the colonial period. Next is we have Magnalia Christi Americana. It is written by Cotton Mather. It is a religious history or a biography in 1702. It focused on God's work through New England's ministers and events. It also explores the themes of divine providence guiding the colonies and spiritual destinies in or of America. This piece is an extensive historical and religious chronicles of New England from its founding through the late 17th century. Composed in a highly elaborate and scholarly style, the work documents the lives of influential ministers and the establishment of church and institutions, key events in the colonies, and the spiritual struggles of the Puritan community. Mather represents New England's history as a sacred story, interpreting political events, natural disasters, and personal experiences as a sign of God's divine plan. The text reflects Puritan ideals, emphasizing piety, moral discipline, and the beliefs that the colonies were part of a larger spiritual mission. Significant to its detailed historical record and its insight to early American religious culture, the book remains one of the most important sources of Puritan New England. Next is Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. It is a powerful sermon delivered by Jonathan Edwards in 1741 during the First Great Awakening, aimed at awakening listeners to the terrifying reality of divine judgment. Edwards vividly describes human beings as helpless sinners suspended over the fires of hell, kept from destructions only by the mercy of an all-powerful and righteous God. Through intense imagery such as spiders dangling over the flame, he warns that God's wrath could fall at any moment upon those who remain unrepentant. Now, despite its frightening tone, the sermon ultimately urges listeners to seek salvation through sincere faith and spiritual rebirth. The work is significant for its emotional intensity. Also, it roles in sparkling the widespread religious revival and its enduring impact on American religious literature. Lastly, we have The Day of Doom by Michael Wigglesworth. It is a religious narrative poem in 1662 which focused on Judgment Day and fate of the souls. It examines the themes such as sin, salvation, and divine punishment. Also, moral instructions through vivid imagery. The Day of Doom, written by Michael Wigglesworth, is a long religious poem that vividly describes the Last Judgment in simple, memorable verses intended for ordinary Puritan readers. The poem portrays Christ returning to judge all humanity, separating righteous from wicked and condemning unrepentant sinners to eternal punishment. Wigglesworth used strong dramatic imagery to emphasize God's justice and the terror of damnation, and also the urgent need for repentance. Its straightforward language and emotionally charged scenes made it extremely popular in colonial New England, where it was used to teach moral lessons and reinforce Puritan beliefs about sin, salvation, and divine judgment. The work became one of the most widely read texts of the period, shaping early American religious culture and imagination. Puritan and colonial writings shaped the moral and spiritual identity of early America. Their strong emphasis on faith, education, hard work, and a sense of divine purpose laid the foundations for values that continued to influence the later American thought. These writers helped form ideals such as community, responsibility, also moral discipline, and the beliefs in higher calling, ideas that would eventually contribute to the nation's cultural and political identity. Their work reminds readers of the roots of American values, literary expressions, and religious heritage, while also offering insight on how early settlers understood their struggles, hopes, and mission in the New World. In many ways, these texts serve as windows into the beginning of American ideology, revealing the spiritual motivations that shapes the country's earliest narratives and aspirations. And that would be all for my report. Thank you.